What is going on? Thanks for coming by. I have a specific sort of thing I want to do here, which is to basically get somebody going on this application here. Basically, you just need a couple things, and I think I can get you sort of in a position where you can mess around. You can make the buttons do different things. You can now the programming the chip is a separate deal, and I'm gonna have to make a different video on that. Um, but of course they're paired together, right? So it's like I have commands that go back and forth, and it's like just different things that this does. Like for example, it'll get the status of the LED. If I turn it off, it'll just keep saying it's off. If I turn it on, and of course that's really just a proof of concept. That LED represents. I mean, it could be any pin you could assign it. It could be a control. It could be a switch. It could be solenoid control. It's just but once you get like, oh, I can do this or I can do that, then you can do anything with this chip. And programming it really isn't bad. Especially if you sort of have just a simple sort of base to start with, and I do have a pretty simple program for that. Now, but this video is about this app over here, and this is basically a MAUI app. This is a multi-application. It's just supposed to run on Windows. Now, the Windows version doesn't work for this version. I will update it in the future, but this is really designed just to run on an Android. And you can get an older Android like this. This is an older Android. It doesn't work as a phone anymore, or a brand new Android. Now, basically, you basically need one piece of software. This Visual Studio 2022 on Windows or whatever will go on. But I'm using Windows 10 and 11 to mess with this, and it doesn't seem to matter which one. Install Visual Studio 2022. It's just a standard install. It seems pretty straight up. It's like nothing tricky. If it asks for anything about mobile, just use your common sense, like yeah, and then boom, you're at the end of it. Now, basically what you want to do is you want to get the code for this and then use this application over here, right, to build this code and install it on an Android that you have, and then get on your way to doing something interesting between a chip and or maybe you just want to write some software for an Android. You can do that too, certainly. And this would be a great starting point. So once you get Visual Studio 2022 installed, you're going to see a screen that looks pretty much something like this, right? And what you want to do is at the link below, I have, where is this? I'm over here in the background copying it, this link to GitHub, which has the code. And in this, you're going to say clone a repository, which is another way of saying copy a bunch of code to my computer. So let's say clone. You're going to paste right here the repository location, which is where the code is. And then here, this second path here is just your local computer. It gives you a default of a weird spot, which is not easy to remember if you're not used to this. So you can change this. You can just browse to some easy to reach location, maybe just right on your desktop, whatever works for you, whatever you have access to. And I'm just going to use the default. I'm going to say clone. And it should, hopefully, if everything's working properly, it will go to the website. It will grab a bunch of files off of the website, as you can see here. And let me see. I just want to make sure that, okay, I think we're big enough. Okay, so just trying to make sure that I'm messing around with the window in the background. You can't see me. Okay, so you're going to end up with this set of files here. And the first thing you want to do is you want to come in and say build, and you want to say clean solution. And that looked like it did it pretty quick. And then we're going to come up to the same menu, build, and we're going to say rebuild solution now. And so now we cleaned out anything that might have been in there. Now we're going to go and we're going to rebuild all of these files in here to hopefully create for ourselves this this application. So let's go ahead and then we will hopefully demonstrate. I'm getting silent because I'm looking at how to make this stuff, the fonts and things bigger. But okay, so we're running code at the bottom. It's building, it's rebuilding. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for success, obviously. Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious, right? You know, we throw around that word obviously. It's a little too easy. You know, sometimes it's not obvious what's going on, but I think here, yeah, we want success building this thing. So we're building. Come on. Yeah, we're in real time, so let me see here. Let me move this up a little bit. We're looking at the output. And there we go. Okay. So let's see. Okay, this is what we're looking for. Success. Can we make that? No, we can't make it happen. Okay. I'm trying to make the font bigger. I'm trying to make this screen bigger. Okay, anyway, so my mind's stopping and everything. So let us take this down here and bring this other one up. Okay, that's a little nicer, right? So let me grab this. And now the other thing that we have to do is on your Android, let me just go ahead and close everything, right? On your Android, you want to enable USB debugging, right? So I already did this search like 9 times. So USB debugging, and it's a developer kind of thing that, I mean, it's on every Android, but it's so you go in here. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. And you can, there's all kinds of like developer options in here. All I'm saying is that what you want to do is you want to just enable USB debugging. That's it. And what that means is that, let me get this up, is that when Visual Studio, and let me bring this down here. Now, when I look at Visual Studio, and I look at this menu here, okay, no, that's the wrong window. Let me get the right window up here. When I open up Visual Studio, and I open up this window right here, there's Android local devices, and here's the 2 devices. It's a new one, and this is the one, this one right here that I have highlighted is the one in the background, right? Now what happens is, if I'm going to unplug all of my Android devices, right? I just unplug the new one, and I'm going to unplug the one in the back. Whoops. Okay, so let me just do that, and let me open this menu again. Now there is not even a menu saying Android local devices, right? So that's how Visual Studio will do you. It will just sit there, and you'll be like, wait a minute, what happened to my thing, man? And so let me get this out. So when I plug this back in, right, oops, with the USB debugging enabled, and then I come back to here, and I go for my drop down, Android local devices shows up with this one Android plugged in. So okay, so I'm just showing you that it's sort of, I don't really understand what happens in the background, but I know that Visual Studio, once you've plugged in your Android, now of course you have to have unlocked your Android also for this to work. Even though you've enabled USB debugging, it still won't work unless you've unlocked the Android, your fingerprint or your PIN or however you did it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then you'll notice that now in the how can I amplify that? Oh, if I do this, will that amplify the size? Oh yeah, that does. There we go. It gets a little bigger. Okay, so now you see this is highlighted in the top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say click on that. Now remember, we already went and we did rebuild and clean. So basically what's happening now is down here in the bottom, It's running. See now, see here where it says found device. That's good. That's a good sign. So that means that we are now hooking up to our Android. So now there it is. See how the icon just popped up? And now we're actually running in real time with Visual Studio. Well, let's see if it will run, right? Okay, so we're still found device. It's still sort of trying to run, I think. And so, okay, here we go. Now it's running. Okay, so I'm just positioning things here. Are we running? Oh, there we go. Now we're starting. Okay, so there we go. Let me see. Now, let me get the LED status. It's on. It keeps saying it's on, which is what it should do. I shut it off, and now it should change its mind. Right. Okay, very good. Very good. On, off, on. Okay, very good. Just making sure that it's still working. So now the very latest piece of code we have on here, I just built. I just built it just now. You should be able to at least get to that point. Now here's what's interesting. Let's see if I can get this going here. Let me see. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so in here, okay, let's look at the code for a second. Now, okay, let's look at the app. If you look at the app, there's two pages. There's this main page, and then there's the setup page, right? And there's really only two pages that this thing goes back and forth to. So I gave two pages because creating a page is a little bit of a pain in the neck. Now you can just copy the code to make this page and make more pages if you want. So I did that for you too. But right now this app has two pages, and the main page is special because it never goes away, right? Even though the setup page opens up, the main page is kind of like back there, right? So, but when we go back from the setup page isn't there anymore, and then we recreate it. So it's, well, that's not actually true, actually. I just lied to you just because I don't even know. It's all my code, and I don't even know what I'm talking about. So imagine me working for you. Anyway, so here's the code. Here's the thing running. Now here's what's interesting. I'm going to open up Visual Studio. Okay, and okay, I just want to establish, I'm back and forth in my mind. I just wanted to establish that there were two pages in the app. So now if we come in here and we look at this views, what we have is we have main page and we have settings page. And one of the things in programming is naming things so that they make sense. And I tried to do that for you here. So what we have is we have main page and settings page. So if I look at main page, it's basically two different files. It's this XAML file and it's this CS file. And oh man, there's so much to talk about, but let's just keep it simple for now. And we're going to talk about two things. There's the XAML files. So there's main page and settings page XAML file. And let me just go to the XAML file real quick. Whoa, that's gigantic. That's gigantic. Let's back off of here. Okay, so we're just going to go to, now if you look at the, can I move this down a little bit? Can I do that? Can I get out? Oh, I can. Oh, my nasty hand is over there. Okay, now you see this little orange guy here, right? Now that guy is actually this bot. This, like, how can I point? I got like different things going on, but this bot thing, this image, right? So it's saying height request, which is like the whole why it would say request instead of just height is another thing. But let's just double the height and say 100 and see what happens. 100. Whoops, I can't see. I'm trying to get across to here. Oh, look, it doubled in size. Let me see if I can do this so we can see it. All right, so it's 100. let's say we change it to 80. Okay, or we change it to 100. Whoop, 801. Oh, it did something crazy. So let's just say we're changing it to 8. It's a little tiny thing there. So let's say 18. Okay, so basically you get the gist of this. Let's say 58. Oops. So now this is what debugging is, right? So let me move this up here a little bit. Here's this thing. I have this right underneath the robot thing. We have this text. Except the text is actually referring to something that is, all right, now this is for people who don't do programming. This is known as a variable, right? Big description is just a place where we put stuff, and we'll do that in another spot. We do that in the model for this, which brings us to, okay, so let's just do this. Let's say I just wanted to put something in here and just say, you know, whatever. Okay, so you see what happened there, right? But we typically, and sometimes you will want to just put text in there. You know, whatever. Any kind of text. But sometimes you want to put something different. Like maybe you're updating it every second, like you're putting in the time or something, right? So let us go back to this thing that we set by a big description. Now, let us come over here and remember. Wait a minute. What happened? Damn it. Let's come over here. And remember, we had a XAML file. We were just looking for main page. Let's just save this guy. Save this guy. Okay. And so we have main page and we have settings page. Now what happens is what goes along with these pages is a set of logic. Okay. Now what I'm doing is let's go to main page. I'm scrolling to the top of main page, pretty much near the top, and there is this thing called the binding context. And the binding context tells us where the logic for this page is, or in other words, tells us where we can find big description and small description and all this stuff. Image, where's image, right? This image here. Okay, so we explicitly are putting the PNG file. We're saying explicitly that it's there. Okay, so where are these view models? Settings also. If I go to settings, here's the settings XAML page. It's similar, looks very similar. It's a little bit more complicated because remember the settings page, well, they're both a little complicated, but the settings page also has a binding context specified here in this thing called settings view model, where the main page has a binding context. Let me scroll to that. So here's the main page binding context. Here is the settings page. Remember, we're just talking about two things, a settings page and a main page and the logic that runs them, right? So the binding context is where the logic is. Now you're like, okay, fine, you gave me a name, but what the hell do I find that? And that will be under a thing called view models. So there's a bunch of stuff in here, but here's the thing. There's a main page view model and there's a settings view model. I don't think you really need to mess with the settings view model, but main page view model, this is, let's get rid of settings for now because there's really nothing interesting to change in there. But in our main page view model is all of the logic for main page. And you'll see right away there's a list of commands here. And if you're familiar with the dongles like the ELM327, here are some AT and I made these are just made up straight out of my brain. These are AT commands that the chip, remember, this whole thing is we're communicating with a chip. This chip has code that I've also made available at GitHub that you can compile and run and install on this chip. And remember, this is like 3 of these boards for like $15. So cheap. So the code here is paired up with the code here. So in that case, what we're doing is what am I doing? So in that case, what we're doing is we're the code has to be, coherent across these two programs. And just to give you an insight on what's happening, this MAUI program will be sending these commands to that chip. Now, that's probably a whole other video, how this thing goes about sending commands. And let me zoom out a little bit. But basically, this main page view model is where things are happening. Like this send command. This send command is actually this button here. Let me see. Can I move these things around here? Right. So this send command that we see right here is actually this button right here. And actually, what happens is if I put a breakpoint, because we're debugging right now, if I put a breakpoint right there and I hit this send button, it stops. It stops right there on the code. And then we can walk through the code. Let me see. And you can just walk through the code, boom. And then, of course, it's just, I'm just going to let it run. So go ahead and continue. So it's really nice because we can see things as it happens as we change the code. Although when you change CS files, you're going to have to do a recompile, which is basically just clicking the circle, and you see how the program stopped and now it's rerunning again. Okay, now remember we had that thing called big description and that thing called big description, right? So let's come over here and let's see. I'm looking for the actual looking for big description. There it is. Okay, so here it is. Big description is just returning these values. And a lot of pretty simple code. So we can just say, whatever. Now, the code can go back and forth. For example, it can be assigned. Right here, it's pretty much a read-only, the description. But we can set it in programming so that if we change, remember, main page has a view model. So if we change this view model, which you can do at runtime, you can actually, without changing the name of this, you can change this value to whatever's relevant for the other view model. We can just say this is test from code. And see, now what happens is when I write that in there live, whoops, I keep doing that. When I write that in there live like that, when I write in there live like that, it doesn't change anything on the Android. So what I have to do in that case is actually rerun, because now it's not coming from the XAML, it's coming from the code. But okay, so I don't want to. Maybe I'm not gonna. There's so many different paths to go to. Right there, here. So this is test from code, right? So now that in our XAML, in our main page, we still have just this term big. We just have this term big description here. Right? And we didn't change this at all. We didn't have to, that's the thing, we didn't have to mess with this at all. Whereas if we come in and we change these things explicitly, then they're stuck there forever and they're never changeable, right? So let's see if I just change, I think that just see how that happened. And No. Where was I just at? Here. I didn't even save this file, and it shows right. So what I did is I just messed with the what did I do? I messed with the label here. Big description. That's what I just did. Okay, anyway, so I think that's enough for now. That's just to get you going, to get you... I'm going crazy with this video stuff. Like, I am not a video guy. And there's like 19 different windows and stuff here, and the wrong one, and it's like starting to piss me off a little bit. So I'm going to get out of here. Oh, I forgot to show you my other like cool, like, look at this, got a proximity thing, right? And if you see the red light, right, it'll come on because this sensor here, right? And if I get too close, it'll go into panic mode. So I back away, and it's like, all right, yeah, if I use a card. Right. Anyway, whatever. So the point is just to get you going on this Android thing. I'll make more videos on the Android thing to help you out and get some more things going on, like especially with the communication stuff. And I think the next important video is to get that get this chip programmed. And it doesn't have to be this chip, but you know, just to be able to get communicating back and forth. So, all right. I don't know, man, if this is helpful or not, or if you like this or not, but you know, good luck. And this really is anybody who's the famous guy, he's a brilliant guy. If I can do it, anybody can freaking do it, right? All right, have a great day. Thanks a lot. Take care.